Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. We're limitless influencing all over the world today. I'm here with David Sakura, communication coach extraordinaire. And y'all know me. I'm Duke DeLate, dating coach, 15 years, multiple companies. And we decided to get together every week to talk about communication strategies, how they cross over dating and business. And, we just nerd out on psych concepts and help other nerds understand what we're talking about. So, David, we didn't prep this show beforehand because you were busy dealing with some credit card fraud BS, and that brought the idea to my brain. We got this upcoming shameless sales pitch. We have this upcoming live event going on, and I was thinking on the sideways ADHD path about how many fucking scam artists there are in the industry, and how coaching is kind of a mixed bag. But my premise is that live coaching is probably the fastest and best way to get the nuanced understanding of human communication. So that's my intro.
So essentially, let's talk about our experiences with coaching, getting coaching, and maybe when is the right time or when is a good time to actually move forward a little bit more on your own than relying on someone.
I've always been like a super big nerd.
Yeah.
Like you should see my bookshelf. It is massive. Like I have like the Tai Lopez style, like just so many books. I should actually set my my podcast up to take advantage of the 10-year-old YouTube trend. But I think it's probably in my middle school years I started reading self-help books because my mom was super into them, and they would be all on the shelf, and so I would start reading them and writing down the concepts. I have like old composition books where I'm scheduling out like, oh, this is how you manifest your next thing, and this is how focus. Thoughts are things, and the Maxwell Maltz cybernetics, and like all the old like self-helpy books. And as soon as I got my hands on a tape player, like a audio cassette player, I bought from the thrift store old Tony Robbins, like Ultimate Power from the 80s, right? And I would just listen to it all the time, and I would just, you gotta get into state, and you gotta get your mind. And I'm a little stupid kid, like rollerblading around my city and like trying to hack into things with my stupid little laptop that died after 30 minutes of use, and it was great. So I think I started there, and I've gone through so many iterations of self-development from every area of life, from like relationships to money, to job and purpose, and all this stuff. And I would seek out the books and the audio programs of all the people that were experts in that field. And as it came up, I just kind of steeped myself in the whole self-help thing. Fast forward, I ended up going to one of my first live events with Tony Robbins, and I went out and did the whole 3-day thing and got all jumping up in the air. And I did a bunch of stuff with Landmark. I did a bunch of stuff with Psy. I did a bunch of stuff with just a bunch of different people. And I would go to the ones like the real estate ones and the investment ones where they would just sell things for 35 minutes and pretend like they were teaching you things. And then everybody would run to the back of the room and whatever. And so I decided to become a coach because I got, my long dating coaching story is not applicable here. But once I got into the coaching industry, I started going to these things over and over and over and over again with anybody I could. And I ended up with NLP training and then John DiMartini seminars, and it's its own little cultish thing. And so I've had just a wide range of experience. Actually, with the therapy route, I went to school for psychology. I got my degree in it, and then I got my own therapists of various different formats. And so I'm constantly trying to figure out a way to be better. Kaizen, as they say.
Yes.
And so I've had a lot of experience with coaches and coaching and self-help programs and tapes and seminars and whatever. And my general philosophy is like, if a book teaches me one concept that allows me to change the trajectory of my life, it was worth it. And if a book or a seminar or a audio program teaches me what not to do with one concept that changes the trajectory of my life, I'm willing to do it. I think it's worth it to just get one little nugget out of things. But my best movement forward has always been when somebody who is a true expert at what they're talking about can see what I'm doing and then tweak what I'm doing in real time. Let me see my blind spots. Let me see what I'm doing wrong, right? In the moment, like, or where I'm going wrong with my thinking. And so I've sought out live coaches for this, to the tune of probably $100,000 by now, for each little aspect of my life, from relationships to money to whatever. And I super highly value live coaching, but you and I, in the business space, trying to, in marketing and advertising and making money doing our coaching thing, have hired some ridiculously uncalibrated coaches.
Yes.
People who would tell us to do a bunch of stuff and be like, yeah, just stick to it, it'll work, and then it doesn't work for 6 months, and they're still like singing the same tune. They're not trying to modify, they're not trying to adapt, they're not trying to fix our nuances of our situation, because we were doing the system that they said would work, and it wouldn't work. And earlier on, I was coaching from the systems that I had learned from my mentors, right? And there were some of my students who would just fall off. They wouldn't have any results because something about their situation, they didn't do it the same way that we did. And in the very beginning, in the first couple of years, I was like, okay, well, I mean, some people just don't get it, or some people aren't committed to it, or some people just won't pull the trigger or whatever. But as I started to mature in coaching, I started to figure out that, like, oh, not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody has the same reference experiences. Not everybody comes from the same trauma. And we could actually address that face to face and actually change lives. And my percentage of success rates went way up after that, because I was face to face trying to get the one-on-one with the person in front of me to change their mental perspective, reframe things right away. And I'll kind of close my opening salvo with this. I realized that seminar speaking, like standing on stage and influencing on a mass level, is very, very different than coaching. I used to think they were the same thing. I would get up on stage, I'd have everything prepared, I have my little talking points, I have my whiteboard or my PowerPoint or whatever, and then I would deliver my speech, and I'd have my little stories and whatever, and everybody would be emotionally invested. And let's go do these things, and let's open the lines of communication and be authentic. And everybody like, yeah, and then we go out in the field and everybody's having the same problems. But as soon as I'm watching them in real time and I'm saying the little nuanced things in field that are only applicable to them at that moment, then their brains start to unlock and see the possibilities. And so now when I look for coaching, I look for coaches who not only know their craft super well, but also are dedicated to get into the dirt with me and figure things out in real time with me. And I guess that's my little treatise on good coaching.
And figure them out in the way that you need. Like, essentially, everyone has different resources that they can access, and everyone has different ways to access these resources. And also, empowerment is very different from one person to the other. So essentially, what a good coach helps you to do, or that's how you should see that. It's not like, I know so many people, even people that are not coaches, like the friends of my girlfriend and everything, and they're like, oh, I've always had this talent. I can always see the things that are wrong. So I'm like a super good coach. Like, when people come to me, I'm so good at telling them their problem. I'm awesome.
I give great advice. I'm the best
Yeah,
advice giver. Yeah.
exactly. Giving advice is not coaching. And so if you're seeking a consultant that really knows where he's coming from and you really need to like learn his method, that's a different thing. You can learn a skill, you can use a framework, you can learn something from someone, a teacher, or a consultant, because of their knowledge of what they did. Coaching always needs to be different. Coaching needs to be something where they help you to figure out your own answers, providing you anything that is in their power to do so.
Yeah.
That means pointing out mistakes, sure, of course. Or I would say a better coach would probably question you on a mistake. Like, hey, I observed that this is going on right now. Do you agree with me? Yes. Okay. Well, what do you think is happening here? That would be a better form of coaching. You said at some point that the best coaches helped you to or they allowed you to open your brain to possibilities, or when you coach, you open their brain to possibilities. That is already a sign of good coaching. If you say something like, yeah, he applied my method and then it worked, that is probably not coaching. And as a result, most likely what's going to happen is that the person is going to feel dependent on the person that gave the advice, or the person is going to feel essentially disempowered, because it's like anytime someone fixes something for you, you might be happy that it's fixed, but at the core level, you're like, I cannot fix this myself. I always give this analogy. With any problem or any challenge that you're trying to overcome, we are all basically like kids trying to like climb a rock. I have like a weird sound in my headphones. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I think it's just
Beautiful.
the broadcast. I think the recording is different.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry guys. I like to give it this analogy. Imagine that when you're trying to overcome a challenge, you're essentially like a child that is trying to climb a rock, a big rock. Okay, and kids just try, and they try, and sometimes they fall, and at some point they cry because they can do it and everything. And there's like three ways to handle that. As a, let's say you're guarding the kid, there's three ways to do that. One is you fucking take the kid and you put him on the rock. He's happy for 3 seconds, and then he's like, well, but now I don't know how to go down. So I'm here and I don't know how to go there. And also, he can never reproduce that thing. The second thing is you can look at him and be like, nope, you don't go there. You're not ready yet. You need to do all these other things. Well, as a result, he's just not going to focus on overcoming the challenge, which is what many of our coaches, like coaches, quote unquote, that we don't consider as really good coaches. We still learn a lot of things from there. But most of them, they just said, yeah, the thing you want to do, the challenge you want to overcome, you're not qualified for it. And you need to do all these other side shit for 6 months that still don't work, and you still haven't progressed on your goal or your challenge. And the
Yeah.
third way is you can kind of be there. Just make sure that like you're there just in case he falls. Maybe sometimes you push him a little bit if it's the first time, but you let him climb the thing on his own. Most likely it's going to take more time than the first two methods. But essentially it's going to take a lot more work from the kid to do so, and he's going to progressively build his own ways. He's going to understand that, okay, when he grips it this way, it works, and when he gripped it the other way, it didn't work for him. Another kid might be like, well, this is the exact opposite of what works for me. And that the fact that we're all different means that every coaching needs to be different for the person. That's my general framework of coaching. I got into personal development. You said it was because of your mom and self-help books. For me, it was kind of because of my mom. The first thing that got me in there was because I was fat and I wanted to play soccer at a high level, and I got laughed at, and I wanted to prove people wrong. So I just picked up a book on nutrition, sports nutrition, and I started to read that. And in that book, it was mentioned that like 80%, 90% of let's say the problems that people have with food or not being able to stick to something is psychological. And that made the like click in me, and I was like, oh, okay, if that's 80%, then I probably have to look into this psychology thing. And the first, like back then, I wasn't at all on the internet, and internet wasn't even like a big thing. You wouldn't find many things. It was the SMS era, the MSN era. Like information on Google, YouTube didn't really exist. Like it was the beginnings. Probably it existed more than what I thought, but my family was never, they're old, so I was never like educated in the internet space. So I was always seeking information through books and through people. So the first exposure to psychology for me was around 13, 14, when I found the books of my mom on her bookshelf. My mom is a drug and addiction specialist, so she has all the certifications you can imagine, every single therapy. She was for a long time the director of a center. She's kind of known in Switzerland. And I found her cognitive and behavioral therapy, and in there was a introductory chapter on hypnosis, and I was like, this shit looks really cool and interesting, and that's when I started to get into that. So it was actually through the therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, that I don't really talk about because it's certified, so I don't try to claim or pretend like I know anything about that, even though I probably did study that than most people. And hypnosis that I actually started to practice and apply to my relationship to food and my really difficult time dealing with stress in my soccer matches and so on. So I really started to practice that on me. And what made the difference is every time that I went to seek someone for a tweak, and it was like, hey, I have done all these things. I'm very happy with what this does, like how this works. And I think there's something that I'm not doing well, and I don't know why. And coming with that, I always got really good solutions, because the person in front can also like really just take and be like, oh, okay, so if this works, it means that you're doing this well. If this doesn't work, well, what can you do to change that? And like ask me questions or give me instructions or even advice sometimes that can point me into the right direction. But it's always based on reference experiences. Nowadays, people kind of just want to be held by the hand. Like they really want the first version that I said of the kid, of like someone that just gets me on the top, and I think that I'm happy with doing that. When that's like long-term happiness, is that's going to destroy it if you do that all the time. If you have constantly someone that needs to hold you by the hand for you to accomplish things, you will never build a strong self-esteem. You will never feel confident. So I have a friend that I go to the gym with. He was in the elite forces for 20 years. He's a fantastic person. And every time we see these personal trainers at the gym, he tells me, yeah, like I know you're a coach and everything, but like, don't you think that nowadays people just like can't make decisions on their own and can't make changes? They just need to be like led somewhere all the time. And I'm like, yeah, most of them, yes. It's not like they come with like, I have tried all these millions of ways, help me to see clearly through that, and what's the one that is the most effective for me. It's like, I'm scared, what should I do? And then you tell them what they should do, and they say, oh, but I actually don't want to do anything. I want to get a solution that is without me doing anything. Like, give me a better alternative. That's why nowadays, like every form of marketing that prevents people from experiencing any form of discomfort works. Like Netflix is fantastic, Amazon is fantastic because, or even Uber, everything is fantastic because there is less effort involved. So obviously this is great in many districts and industries, but in order to improve yourself, you have to put in the work. I mean, we have been put on this planet to kind of discover who ourselves is. And we do that by progressively peeling the layers of the onion one by one, by going inside and finding like what we love, what we don't like, what are our strengths, creating new strengths, weaknesses, turning these weaknesses into strength, and so on. So that's my general understanding of coaching. And maybe later you can ask me about like specific coaching experiences. But maybe to wrap this up, the second thing that was very eye-opening for me is that I had all these experiences in like until I was like 22, which was mostly with teachers. Okay, I would come like I did all these exercises by myself. Like, can you point me in a direction? And I would get some advice, some educated advice on that. Like I was saying, my mom, I had many mentors, I had like sports coaches, and the first people, like kind of putting the sports coaches aside because they were really good at coaching actually. The first time that I really saw like the value of proper coaching, dedicated coaching, was when I did my first seminar in immersion with you. Before that, so long story short, I know Duke because I was his client. I signed up for this 7-day workshop with him where we went to Ibiza and I was supposed to like learn how to basically date women. And I was young and I spent most of my youth kind of trying to be a soccer player. So I didn't really go out, and I was also pretty big in studies. So I didn't really have the experiences that most people have at 17, 18, 19, and so on. So I decided at 22, after a big breakup, okay, I'm just going to go to Ibiza, have the like youth experience, just to go fully in it, have the stories to tell, and also improve. And you know, maybe this will fix my feeling of missing out on my teenage years. And when I got there, I already had an experience with coaches. So I actually had an experience with someone that almost scammed me online, wanted me to pay, and it was weird, and I just didn't want to do that. And the second was there was this guy that got me, like I just went out with him essentially in Lyon in France to approach girls on the street. That was my first exposure to that. And he was really cool, but he was essentially like a friend. There was very little coaching. He was showing me how he was doing it. And then I was just reproducing it. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I can learn something there. I can copy, I can model, but I was like, this is not very different from watching a video or reading a book. And then I came to the 7-day workshop, immersion bootcamp, however you want to call that. And you gave me specific exercises, challenges that were like tailored to show me things that I didn't know about myself. And that's when I realized, oh, this is something that I cannot do on my own because I just don't see that. And I don't see that because I'm inside myself. I have my perspective. And you have not only the experience, but you're also able to, like, you went the extra mile for the first, I remember the first day we went into coaching, we went on our first night out, and you saw me that night and I was hyper frustrated. The night didn't go the way I expected, and it was like I didn't like people, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing here? And you spent essentially the first 48 hours analyzing, trying to understand me, how I work, and kind of appreciating where I was coming from. At least that's how I felt. And based on that, on night 2, I already got like boom, 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 one exercise after the other that no one else had in the group, and that were like exactly what I needed to see. And some of them I succeeded, some of them I failed, and we could talk about that, and you could, ask me questions how I can do that. And I came out of this 7-day experience completely changed because you made me realize that I already had a lot of resources inside that I was not using. It's not like you were trying to pretend like you obviously gave me a lot of things, but you helped me to find inside so many qualities and so many things that I didn't even think about that I just used in this context. And that was phenomenal coaching.
Yeah, and what you didn't notice because you were in your own process was I was giving specialized missions to everybody.
Everyone, of course.
On the workshop.
Yes.
I was listening, and I basically keep dossiers on all of my clients. Like oh, this is how he responds to this. This guy's more fear-based, and this guy is more he wants significance. He wants other people to see he's doing well. Like I do all that like calculation. Yes. And yeah, I have a bank of exercises that I've proven like works well, but not everything works. There's no one path, right? You and I both came up at this company called The Attractive Man. It's the second largest dating company in the world. And we were both executive coaches for a number of years there. And they had like a base system that was like, okay, this is how you approach women. This is how you project sexuality. This is how you, be authentic. This is how you present who you are in a way that's attractive. And
here's the question you need to ask her at some point.
Right. Yeah. And I think all of the coaches at TAM were very good at coaching in very specific domains. Like my mentor, Josiah, there, he was very good at the infield, show you how it works, and then tear everything apart when you go and try to emulate it and explain like the mentalities behind everything. He was super good at that. And then like Jules was very good at making you second guess the root of your
intentions.
Yeah, he got into the Hawkins stuff early on, but he didn't follow through as deeply as we did when we did Limitless. And then the girls were offered a completely different perspective about emotional feeling and what projection was and all, like Nora and Lynn. And so like having that strong group of coaches, like being able to see all of the different styles, I was able to, because I was the master trainer at the time. I mean, Matt, the guy who runs the company, is like always number one, but he was doing like super high ticket clients. I was doing most of the group events, and I was able to see like so many different things, and I realized that like if clients got results, but they didn't believe that they could get the results without me, then we would get return business once or twice, right? They come to another workshop or they'd upgrade or whatever. But if they got results because of a decision that they made, because of a mindset that I was able to show them in the middle of their limits or frustration, they would sign up for the whole thing. We'd be friends after. I have friends all over the world who ended up, on the ultimate elite level program from TAM, so they saw me multiple times. And now I've got friends in Vietnam, I got friends in Czech Republic, I've got friends in Serbia, I've got friends, like all these places, because they were my long-term clients for a very long time. I get referrals from them. It's just better if you empower, you let the kid climb the rock by himself. And there's a little bit of a parallel to jiu-jitsu, like, because I'm a high-level jiu-jitsu player, and the original philosophy of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu was to basically train at full speed with full strength, but take out via the rule set all the parts that could maim or injure you, right? So like they implemented things that you're not going to eye gouge, you're not going to punch guys in the nuts, you're not, like all these rules. Don't hit people in the spine and whatever. But like the rest of the training, let's say you have 70% of the movements left that are safe to do over and over and over again without causing injury, right?
Yes.
The rest of the training was full speed, full power. And so Bruce Lee said one time, any kung fu man could be beat by a guy with 6 months of wrestling, 6 months of boxing, because the guys who do wrestling and boxing train at full speed in real life with chaos. They don't just do forms and repetitions or whatever. And and so when I took on social dynamics, especially from the dating side, I wanted to spend less time in front of on a stage with a whiteboard or PowerPoint, and more time having my clients actually talk to humans in real life. And then when they ran into their own personal limits or boundaries or belief systems that didn't let them behave in the way that they wanted to behave, I could ask them, okay, well, what were your goals in this situation? Like what do you think was going to happen? What were you projecting? And why were you feeling it that way, right? And they would go in, they check in with themselves, and they realized that there was other ways to do things, maybe that were in their control and whatever. And as we started coaching that way, and standing on the shoulders of giants, obviously, from Matt and Josiah and all the people who coached me, we flew. Like, I ended up teaching more workshops than anybody in the industry at the time. Like, I was the most active one in the whole world. And then I just got so many reference experiences over and over and over and over again. And it kept my passion alive for it. I wasn't just like, reciting the same bullshit over and over and over again and trying to collect a check. I was like, let's fly to a city. Let's see how many lives we can change. Everything's different. It's all fucking exciting. It's like, it took my ADHD brain and it gave me something to attack with hyperfocus. And just like dating with a variety is just so enjoyable. It's like, so I really found my calling. And so I don't think I'm a great coach because I figured out some sort of coaching system that applies and deadly effective. I think I'm a great coach because I'm calibrated and adaptable, and I have a true hardcore passion for it. And like we were talking about calibration yesterday, and like that's it, right? If I can look a coach in the eye, and I know that he wants me to win, and he's willing to try a bunch of shit to figure out, because the roadblocks are in me. Like there's other people making the money that I want to make. There's other people fucking the girls I want to fuck. There's other people having the kind of body that I want to have, right? Like, it's possible. If one man can do it, everybody can do it. It's possible.
And I would push it even more than that. Not only is it possible, but most likely, like, people kind of already know what they should be doing most of the time. Like, if you want to quit smoking, you have to fucking put the cigarette down. If you want to make money, you know that you have to find a product, sell it over and over and over again. Right. But what happens is that there are some things that prevents them from moving forward. That's really the difference with probably like a psychology thing and coaching. Is psychology will try to go into the why, understand the situation, go into the past, kind of retrace everything, which has a lot of value in many cases. But coaching will really be like, okay, what is really preventing you from moving forward, and in what direction you want to go, which is one of the big problems that people have to figure out with their clients. Is many people that have people come to their coaching or their program or something, they assume that they just want the result that they're providing or that they think they're providing. Most people don't want that. They want a specific result. Most of the time, they're not even aware of it. So the first question is like, okay, what do you really want? And most of the time, the answer is like, yeah, I actually don't know. Some people know, or some people know what they think they want.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. And then alongside, then you say like, okay, let's go check how is this thing. And then they realize they want something different. That's the value of the coaching in the first place. But then many people are like, okay, I don't really know what I want, but I know I don't want this. Like, I don't want rejections. I don't want to be called ugly. I don't want to be like this. In business space, like, I don't ever want to feel like I'm in scarcity mode. These kind of things. People know what they don't want. And then you're asking, okay, well, so, okay, you know what you don't want. You kind of have an idea of what you think you want. Well, so this is why you just don't do it. And there's just only a few things that I call kind of the real addictions. It's like procrastination, hesitation, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of rejection. There's like a bunch of these things, stress, a lack of difficulty to deal with stress, imposter syndrome. Like there's these things that prevent people from bridging the gap between where they are, where they want to be. That's kind of what the essence of coaching is, and help them to work with that. And by definition, these are problems that will arrive in other areas of life, like stress. It's just arrive in many different areas. That's why many athletes, they become really good at business not even because they had coaches or whatever, because they found their own way to deal with stress. And now this is something that they can apply. Yeah, and they can apply that under stress in a relationship, and they can apply that to the stress in difficult situations in business. But maybe what they haven't found is how to, because in sport it's kind of the opposite of what you should do, how to express their emotions and communicate what they want to say. So that's why many athletes, they're fucking frozen or just like limited or blocked when it comes to expressing things and communicating. They are really good at like, okay, I'm in my sport and I'm going to execute because they have practiced that in another environment, but they haven't found what is their own way to deal with, I don't know, I don't even know if I want to call it vulnerability. I'm just going to call it like emotional sharing or expression of emotion. And they need to work on that. And maybe the problem is a little bit different. And once you kind of start to like master one of these things, that's why self-mastery is so powerful, and a coach that is able to like see the problem and the external result that people want and go a little bit behind that and look at like, okay, what's the pattern that is running here and also there that we can change, interrupt, and create something new. That's the coach that someone is going to respect. I had the same exact experience as you were saying, which is if you explain to someone how to do something and they do it and it works because of you, and they don't really understand why that works for them, they will like, they're not coming back. But I have this client who he's from Romania, and he's really cool and super fun guy. Like he's a little bit small, and he's like a Latin dancer, and he's super fun, super like joyful. And he really struggled with women, and very quickly after an event and a little bit of one-on-one coaching, he got over that. And then he paused a little bit because he didn't really have finances. Obviously, Romania is not necessarily a country where people have finance all the time available. And then he came back and he was like, okay, now I got into a relationship. I would like to work on this. And every time he tells me, like, every time he applies something that we talk about, it's something that I make him realize he can do. So essentially, he tells me the answer, and he says, hey, like, your voodoo shit, that really works. And it's not that I have some voodoo shit. My voodoo shit is I help him come up with his own answers. And every time I see the message, I'm like, that's funny because you told me what to do. I didn't make any magic. You told me what to do. Then I just found a way for you to believe that it was actually that you were actually capable of doing it, and you were able to move forward with that. Anyways, that was again a sidetrack, but many of the experiences I had with coaches were that actually people aren't coaches. And that's a little bit confusing, unfortunately, nowadays. And for anyone that is listening, I have always liked to work with people who were aware that, or who actually wanted to do things on their own, who didn't want someone like, we're not plumbers, like you're not hiring us to fix something that is broken inside. It's not. It's, well, I see the face of you, and he's suggesting that sometimes it might be the case. Okay, sure, but we're not there to like manually fix it. Like, I'm not gonna do some physical therapy on you. Well, some therapies help with that, like tapping, but essentially, we're not there to do something for you and wait until it breaks again to come back. We are here to help you acquire skills and qualities that you can use on your own to make your life better. And most of that is actually already within you. Or most of that is already something that you have applied in another area and you're just not aware of it, or you just don't know how to access that, or you see it in a certain way and you're limited by your thoughts, your psychology, or just you don't see yourself as a certain person. And that's all that it is. I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, I feel like the more and more I go along in self-development and in coaching, I realize that like it's more what you remove, more what you get out of your way of, is more the entrenched habits that you stop than it is adding anything else. Like, so many people think they need to have better communication skills or more words to say or more diversified investments or whatever. But like for me, like really quick, you changed my whole like weight loss journey. You know, in Cancun one year, you did a little hypnosis thing with me, and like I finally realized why I chose to stay super fat. And funnily enough, you helped me see through a little, you know, kind of trancey thing that I was using it for significance, right? Like I wanted to be the guy who had like so many skills, even though like, you know, he came in under the radar, right? And I was 285 pounds at the time, right? And once I made that realization and realized I didn't need that anymore, all I needed to do was remove the habits that were keeping me that way, right? I started fasting, and then, you know, I did a bunch of workout stuff, and it was more like, oh yeah, don't eat that dumb shit, than it was like, eat the right shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a fucking super high performing sports athlete who needs to have this fucking sodium levels at the right level all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I just needed to stop eating fucking quarter pounders. You know what I mean? Like, so, and very often, a lot of the guys who come in to do the romance dating coaching stuff, they just need to stop trying to be badass.
Yeah.
They need to highlight the ways they already excel. That they're, for some reason, you know, from childhood or whatever, some reason they figure, oh, it's not, nobody wants to see that or whatever. Like, that's it. And then they start meeting people who actually vibe on their real level, and they don't have to like keep up a pretense all the time. And I don't know, it's pretty interesting to me. We're at what?
Well,
38
okay,
minutes.
just one thing. What's funny? Well, just let me wrap this up with this. What's funny is that,
Always wrap.
well, you said you started fasting and everything, and with my own journey of, I said when I was a kid, I was fat and overweight, and that's kind of how I got into that. So essentially, I tried every single method out there to lose weight that you can imagine and to get, you know, in good shape and all that stuff. If you ask me, what would you do to lose weight? I would have actually not told you to fast. You found your own method that works for you, but it was just in a conversation, so it was I don't even remember exactly what it was. Like, you remember it, I don't, but it was essentially some form of a natural coaching that we get into, and I helped you to understand what you needed to understand. If you ask me, hey David, how would you lose weight? I can give you a plan. You would have never executed that, and would have certainly never worked even if you did, because it wasn't your plan, and the actual problem wasn't alleviated. So as a coach, like, I always rely on, just to finish that framework, because we might bring that up, I rely on something called the logical levels, coming from the NLP. Who's that? It's Robert Dilts, who created that structure. And it's essentially 7 different levels where, if you want to make a change, you need to have all these 7 levels in check and aligned for the change to happen. And I work with that framework all the time, because
me too.
At the bottom of this framework, there are things that are like implementable, like that you do. That's where confidence kind of comes from. How is your environment? The things you do, you don't do, you say, you don't say, and the skills and strategies you have. You like most of the people that come to work with me don't have a problem there. They have already that. They just maybe haven't organized it in the proper way. If someone really needs work in there, we can absolutely work on that. But higher on, there is beliefs, values, identity, and meaning. Meaning is everything that has to do with purpose or, other people that are important to you. But essentially, what's important beside, like, what's more important than me in this problem? That's kind of when you think of the impact of things. And the art of a coach is to find where on these different levels, because it's logical. That's what I like about that. I'm a very rational person, and it makes coaching a lot less woo-woo, funny enough, is find someone that helps you where on this thing you have blind spots or you have incongruences, and helps you to work through that. Anyone that is able to do that, I see that they're able to do that, are good coaches. In my opinion, that's my observation. Even if they don't know about the framework, actually. Sometimes it's just natural. But every time they will tell you, oh, no, everything is wrong, just do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. Or like, I have one time this client who hesitated to come on an event because he met another coach who kind of convinced him that he's going to film him and then he's going to just break down his videos and that's going to help him to move forward. I was like, yeah, great, you will hear again what you're doing wrong. Like, great, that's good. That's not necessarily going to help you move forward, and that's certainly not your problem. Your problem is absolutely not going to be how you touch her or all that stuff. It's how you think and how you approach this and how you are scared that she doesn't like XYZ thing about you and so on. And yeah, finding these things is kind of the essence of what we're doing at Limitless, which is why like when I started, it was mostly in dating, it evolved to relationships, and I was still teaching the same things, and then it migrated because most of my clients were CEOs, founders, and everything, and they really wanted to, like, for some reason, they kept telling me, hey, can you keep mentoring me? Because your methods, they really work well in my business. Like, I have a better, I'm perceived more strong, assertive, like I have an aura and energy, like people are interested. I'm able to speak on events. I have this client who was able to earn a prize by essentially winning how you call that, a startup pitching show, startup pitching competition. Yeah, and he was like, I just use all the things we use for storytelling. And I was like, okay, well, good. So that means that these methods that we provide are broad enough to apply in multiple contexts. That means that we work on the human. If we work on the person, it will apply to all other concepts. So yeah, we have trained ourselves to be very broad, which is our problem as well in marketing, because then the one-way communication without calibration, which is marketing, is like just put a message out there and see who bites. That's not necessarily our strength. But in terms of like, every time it's personalized, that's where it is. So yeah, hope this was useful. And that's kind of my last comment on this. I'll let you close this in your way.
Awesome. I think the next one we should talk about logical levels in depth, because we've mentioned it 4 or 5 times on the podcast, and we've only had 8 episodes. So let's actually dig into it and do a whole hour thing tomorrow on that one.
I think it's a big concept. Maybe that's something that should go into the membership on school and go as a free course, because it's super useful. But we can make a little intro in podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you guys aren't joining the school group, please go to thelimitlessmentoring.com/school, SKOOL, and join up with a bunch of like-minded people. We're doing the podcast, releasing them once a week. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't done the little thumbs up and the 5 stars and the whatever, please do that. It helps us disseminate things out to the rest of the world. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay amazing. All right, so you hit stop, and then we have to wait for the 99-cent upload.